This is the Grappling Variety Show, episode 30. Kerry Isom. Okay, welcome to the Grappling Variety Show, episode 30. I am your host, Brett Summers, and today our guest is Kerry Isom, straight out of the Odyssey Combat Hub, where she is a coach, a BJJ Brown Belt, a pro MMA fighter, and a grappling veteran. Welcome to the show, Kerry.
Hey.
So, anyone who's new on the show gets the same question to start with. Where did it begin for you?
Okay, so I actually signed up to an ultra white collar boxing event 10 years ago, which is like where you get 8 weeks free training, and then at the end of the 8 weeks, you fight someone else that's done the 8 weeks training. I signed up because all of the guys from work signed up, and I was like, I think I can do that. I'd done nothing like martial arts before, and I was like, I fancy giving that a go. So I did that, and then Um, basically, I loved it, and then did a few boxing fights. And then 2 years into that, I started jiu-jitsu and just completely fell in love with jiu-jitsu and haven't looked back since.
What made you go into you're doing the boxing, you've had a couple of fights in that, and I'm imagining you're training the boxing as well. What led you then, what turned your head to jiu-jitsu?
I think I was just where I was in the gym a lot. I was seeing all the guys doing like jiu-jitsu, rolling around, and I was like, oh, I wonder what that's like. I thought I'll give that a go. And I actually signed up to the charity MMA event as well. So I was like, I kind of need to do jiu-jitsu if I'm going to do MMA. So I'll give it a go.
So she sort of jumped in with both feet, really, then, in a way.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh no, brilliant. So what was it like then? What did you notice? Obviously, you got used to a bit of boxing, and that, say you've seen these guys run around, whatever, and you're now putting on. Was it gi or no gi, or was it gi at that point, or
It was mainly gi, yeah.
no
But I
gi?
was,
You're putting on a gi,
yeah,
then there's,
it
then
was
there's sort of
strange.
yeah, as I say, putting one on can be strange, like you said, and then taking that step on the mat. Can you remember sort of those early memories? What those early sort of lessons were like?
Yeah, I was like, I didn't have a clue what was going on. I just felt like I was in a washing machine with a big, heavy set of pajamas on. I'm getting choked everywhere, like limbs flying around everywhere. Yeah, I didn't have a clue what was going on.
But you went back again.
Yeah,
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 so
never
you
looked
went.
back.
So you got that. So okay. So how did that develop for you then? So you've got that. You've signed up for an MMA competition at the same time. So I'm imagining now you're starting to go and trying the BJJ training. Then how did that? Was there a point when suddenly I don't know? Some people have it where they suddenly get that reversal or get that hold, and suddenly it's like, actually, I can do this after sort of 6 months of just being beaten.
Yeah,
That's how I remember it. And someday you're like, actually, I can get out of this now, and it's like, oh. And yeah,
yeah.
no, what was
I
that?
mean,
What was that moment of yourself?
yeah, I can't remember how long it was into it, but I do remember the moment where I was just surviving more, and not getting tapped as regularly, and it felt good. I was like, oh, okay, I didn't tap as many times today. That's a win. And then gradually it just kept getting like less and less tap, like me tapping every 5 seconds, and it went to more like every 2 minutes, and like, and yeah, so it was just a gradual, I think, a gradual change. So I didn't really notice like the actual moment, more so just like noticing the gradual change.
So then you said you signed up for an MMA competition as well.
Yeah.
How far away was that from when you started the BJJ? Is it sort of within a few weeks, or was it a few
Uh,
months down the line?
no, it was the same again because it was a charity thing, so it was
Okay.
8 weeks of training for that. But I was doing the jiu-jitsu and the 8 weeks training for that as well. So I think I started the jiu-jitsu um maybe a couple of weeks before I signed up for that. So maybe 10 weeks altogether I was doing the jiu-jitsu before the
And when,
MMA fight.
and when it got to that fight, how was that? Because also, like, so you've done some boxing, you've done a bit of jiu-jitsu now, obviously the MMA training, then you're stepping into the cage for this. Is it the same? Is it different to boxing? What was it like for you?
Oh, completely different. Completely different. There's so much more you got to think about. Not just the striking. You got to watch the takedowns. You got to watch the grappling on the floor. Like just being pummeled. Yeah, you got to watch out for everything. So it's completely different to boxing.
Okay, and what was it like for you going in there then? So you've got this in your mind with this. Did you have a certain strategy, or were you just hoping for the best and just go for it, or was it like,
Just
did you have a sort of, did you have a game plan?
um, I mean, I don't really have a game plan for anything. I just kind of see what they bring and then try and like just match that or
Yeah.
try and like yeah, I'm more of a retaliation fighter than yeah. Because I think if you go in with a game plan, then if they do something completely different, then your game plan is never going to work anyway. So you kind of got to be prepared for anything. So I just wait and see what they do.
Okay, then. So how did that go then? So you've gone through this MMA fight that you've been training for now. The jiu-jitsu's come in to help it. This has happened now. I'm scared to ask how the outcome went, but what was your views after that? What was you've done it now, it's over. Was it like, oh my God, I'm never doing that again? Or was it like, this is awesome, give me some more? Where was your mindset after that? Well, I guess I know the answer.
Well, I won by an armbar, so I was like, yes, the jujitsu works.
It works.
So yeah, it works. It's legitimate. So I thought like at that moment I was like, this is what I want to be doing forever. So yeah, I just took it with both hands and I was just like, yeah, MMA is amazing.
What were the next steps for you then? So did you go back and carry on with the classes, or did you try and add more to it, or
I
what
tried
was
to
the sort of
then
plan?
train. Yeah, so I carried on with I did some like I did boxing for a couple of nights a week and then jiu-jitsu a couple of nights a week and then I tried to throw in some Thai boxing as well because I'm awful at kicking. I still am awful at kicking, but I'm getting better. Um, yeah, so I mixed it all up. So I was training pretty much every day of the week. Um,
What
just
what
mixed.
was it like? What was that like as a schedule? Did you have a daytime job as well? You don't have to reveal all that. But I mean, if you're working as well, then doing all that in the evening,
Yeah,
it's got to be.
I mean, I still have a daytime job now. I've had a daytime job this whole time I've been doing martial arts, so it's tough. It is tough. I work from 8 in the morning until half 4 in the evening, and then like I go get changed, go to the gym, train until about 8, 9 at night, and then go home, sleep, wake up, do it all over again. So yeah, it was tough fitting it all in. Or
What
still is. Yeah.
advice would yes, what advice would you give to people then who maybe want to do more, or maybe let's say jobs are getting in the way, or just motivation is getting in the way? What is it? What drives you to make sure that you're there at the gym, you're doing it? Because as I say, even some people getting there 2 to 3 times a week can be a tough one.
Yeah.
What sort of advice would you give someone who's trying to juggle that schedule?
I think just prioritize, like listen to your body. If your body is telling you to rest, then rest. Obviously don't jeopardize your work, just to go training. And also be careful of injuries because if you get injured and it puts a halt to your work. So there's a lot of things to think about, but just try and be careful. Luckily, I've got a good job and they understand if I do get injured. I haven't been fired yet, so
That's how I'm a school teacher, so I just stick with the grappling side. Now, I've always wanted to try the other bit. If I turn out with a black eye or something, that'll be me out the door, so I can't do it.
Yeah,
Although sometimes even for jiu-jitsu, now, you end up with a few nudges and bumps and scratch marks and everything. It's really good.
definitely.
But yeah, no, that's okay. So that's brilliant. So you've got this schedule now. Then this is it. This is what you want to do. You've done it. You've got the taste of it now. How does that develop then? Because obviously through, you're a BJJ Brown Belt now, so I imagine obviously there's a dedicated path there. There's
Yep.
some amateur MMA coming along as well, I'm imagining at this point. Where where are you with all this? How are you, you're juggling these sort of different bits, these balls in the air as such, and how are you finding it as you're progressing? Because obviously the further you move up in BJJ, there's different expectations of that. Obviously, I can imagine, not that I've done MMA or anything, but like moving up through training for fights and getting amateur fights as well. Because I know that can even getting a fight can be a bit of a challenge for people. I've seen that where they
Yeah,
have one, then they have it, then they have again, or the person that was there wasn't. And instead, you got to fight someone who's got like 50 fights experience and not the novice you thought it was going to be. There's a whole crazy world there to begin with. What was that like for yourself?
yeah, it was quite difficult because I think I had about maybe 10 or 11 amateur fights, and I think my record was 9 and 2. 9 and 2. Yeah, 9 wins and 2 losses at amateur. So as I started winning more, it was tougher and tougher to get fights because people look at the record and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to fight her. She's like really good." But in reality, I was never um great in MMA. I was good, but I wasn't amazing just because I can't train as much as say someone that was just had no job and just did the gym like every day. So I mean, I wasn't bad, but I wasn't amazing. So my record, looking back, it is it's good amateur record, but didn't really I don't know how to say it. Um, it didn't really reflect. Like I was kind of like in the middle. So you get people that aren't so good, and then you get people that are amazing, and I was somewhere in the middle. Um, but yeah, I was trying to work my way up, and I was doing a pretty good job at amateur. But yeah, it was tough. It was tough.
Were there any who would was there anyone else around at that time, sort of on the scene that you were sort of either fighting against with or training, like on that time that people might know, just to kind of
Um,
this?
yeah, I fought Jenny Line. She's been around for a while. I fought her on Cage Warriors, which was a really cool experience. Also, my last amateur fight was against Dakota Jicheva, and she's on an absolute tear up at the moment. So yeah.
Yeah. So when did the decision come in then, because they're saying, oh, you got these amateurs, why don't you turn pro? Was that something that you always wanted to do, or was this something that
Uh,
revealed itself as the amateur career went on?
yeah, I did at some point want to go pro. I think I did it a little bit earlier than I should have done. But I was being offered a lot of money to take a fight with a week's notice, which was also against Ticheva. Um, so I was like, "Oh, I'm getting paid a lot of money. I need a new washing machine. Yeah, why not?" And I mean, a week's notice. I haven't really been training a lot of like striking at this point. I've just mainly been doing jiu-jitsu. But let's just go for it. We'll see what happens. I'm probably not going to win, but I need the money, so why not?
Fair. So what advice would you give it then? People listen to this and they're sort of their dream is to turn pro and they're waiting for that call, waiting for that thing. But like you
Yeah.
say, you feel now in reflection you did it a bit early. What advice would you give if there's people now in that similar position?
I would say do as many amateurs fights as you can. Do as many competitions, jiu-jitsu competitions, into clubs until you really know that you're ready. Like until you really know that you're like there's no doubt in your mind that you're ready for pros because it's such a high step up from amateur to pro. I mean, some people do it like they have a couple of amateur fights and then they turn pro, which is cool. And I guess some people are just like built for that. But especially if you're not able to put in a proper camp where you're in the gym every day, you get to train multiple times throughout the day. If you've got a day job, or you got kids, like really make sure that you're really ready by just doing more amateur fights.
And how did it change for you then as a pro MMA fighter? What did you start to do differently than what you were doing before? Because like you said it was a step up. You're noticing this. I imagine the quality of opponent is going up. What are you suddenly thinking? Right, I need to do more of this or less of it. What are you doing to sharpen your skills as such? I guess.
Yeah, I started to do more strength and conditioning stuff. I was swapping out some classes to do more Thai boxing, and I was just really focusing on specifics of like positional stuff. And like in jiu-jitsu I would wear my gloves so I could like just simulate where I could punch people in certain positions or where to frame properly with the gloves on so I could feel what it was like more than just grappling. So I think you've got to be kind of specific. For grappling for MMA and just grappling for jiu-jitsu is a tiny little bit different. You've got to watch out for strikes as well. So I was kind of like asking my training partners to throw punches in um, where they could, to
Yeah.
just to get me prepared more, more so.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, this is getting used to it as well, like the condition of it, isn't it? Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And how did you find that as it went along? So you're having these different matches. Were there certain things as your fights went along? Were there certain things that you think, yeah, this is working, or were there certain things, right? I've done that, but now I need to go back and do a bit more of this or a bit more of that because training is different for everyone, but
Yeah,
I think people listening might want to have some hints or tips, that might
yeah,
help them if they're listening to it. Yeah.
yeah. So my first fight against Dakota was obviously I stepped in with a week's notice, and I wasn't expecting much. I got it got stopped in the first round. She completely smushed my face until I looked completely different. I had 4 stitches in my forehead. Yeah, it was like, okay, maybe I wasn't ready for this, but I kind of like it, so I'm gonna really knuckle down and train hard for the next one. And my next pro fight I actually won, which was such a really good feeling. It was against actually my good friend now, Levi Steedman. She's a really good friend of mine now since that fight we had. So jiu-jitsu and MMA brings people closer together, and you can make some really good friends out of it. And I did, but we had an absolute tear up. We went all 3 rounds, 15 minutes of just like we went like it was me beating her, and then she was beating me, and then she threw me, and then I was on top of her. It was a really good even match, and I think what helped me in that one is my strength and conditioning. I just had a little bit more cardio, and I managed to just end up the last round. I ended up on top, and I took her back, and just controlled the last round. But up until that, it was pretty even Stevens. So yeah, and then the next two, I think I cut to straw weight, which was awful. I wouldn't recommend it unless you're a really small person to begin with. I wouldn't cut to straw weight. Yeah.
And
So yeah.
weight cuts are quite a hot topic in combat sports anyway at the moment. I mean, have you got any thoughts on those?
Yeah, there needs to be more weight categories, to be honest.
Mm.
There needs to be one, at least one in between each weight category that there is now. Because I think it's quite dangerous.
Well,
I
there's a big
remember
campaign. Oh, go on, carry on. Yeah.
yeah, when I caught, it was disgusting. I always said like I know why they call it straw weight, because that's all you're allowed to eat.
So, how about it? There's a big campaign at the moment for the weights in jiu-jitsu or BJJ, I think, and that to like change all the different weight categories
Yeah,
for the women because it just stops at a certain point. then it jumps to like the ultra
Yeah,
heavy, and then it's whatever else is above that, and it's just it does
yes, it's
it's
crazy.
weird. As an ultra heavy man when he competes, it is a bit like I've always said, like it gets to that point, and it can be anyone. But I never actually, shamefully, never really thought of it from the women's thing, and just how there's an even bigger jump before you get to that, and it's like they just yeah, you're not going to go in there. You know,
Yeah,
no, it can't be like that. It can't be.
that makes
It's
sense.
dangerous.
Yeah, yeah, because like they say technique beats like strength and stuff, but it does to a certain degree. Like if I'm rolling with like I'd say 65 kilos, right? And if I'm rolling with an 120-kilo woman, like technique's only going to get me so far. Like if they get on top and just hold me down, there's no way I'm moving.
As I said, it's all about technique. I said I could be across the mat from Brock Lesnar. Technique's not going to help me at all.
Yeah,
He's 280 pounds heavier than me. You know what I mean? To start with, let alone.
yeah, it is crazy. Yeah,
But you're carrying on then with the MMA. So you've had this massive tear that
yeah.
you were victorious at. What does this lead to more?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think like yeah, okay, I won that one. Maybe I can win some more, you know. I'm kind of believing in myself a little bit more. Um, and then because it was so hard to get fights, but I managed to get a fight against Sean O'Bannon, who's now in the UFC. But again, I had to cut to straw weight, and it was difficult. And I think when I did that, it was the first time I'd cut that low. The fight before I'd done flyweight, which is 57.7, I think, or 57.6 kilos. And that was okay. Like I felt strong and I felt good and I felt healthy. But when I cut to straw weight, it was, yeah, I wasn't ready for that. It was horrible.
A step too far or something. Yeah.
It was, yeah, for my height as well. I'm 5'6", so for my height, I mean, 52 kilograms wasn't ideal for me. I didn't feel strong. I had no energy. I didn't really know the right way to cut properly. I didn't really have any advice at the time. So I was
Do
kind of
you feel them? Do you feel them for female fighters? Maybe. I mean, I'm just throwing this out there. Do you, do you feel like there is a pressure then of like if you want a career, you've got to be at. We want you at this weight. Like you said, you talk about more categories earlier on in the
yeah,
weight divisions, but do you think there's a more thing? Oh, we got this big fight, but you've got to do this rather than looking for people who might be in that category. They're sort of pressurizing sort of names or whoever to get to
yeah.
that.
I,
And
I think it's hard because there's not there are more women now that are getting involved in MMA, but at the time there weren't that many at the heavier weights. Everyone was like cutting down to smaller weights so they could be the strongest one in the bracket. So it was kind of hard not to accept fights with tough people, you know,
hmm,
or to cut down to the weight where there were fighters that you could fight. So it is tough. It is tough. But it's getting better now, I think. Except it need more weight categories.
yeah, no, I agree on that on across the board for I think for that now. I think all even now though, because we've got the was it it's all the grappling tournaments and all that have risen up over sort of the last 10 years, which I think are great because it's again somewhere to do it in the UFC as well with their BJJ thing and that. But they need, like you say, you've got all these opportunities now. Let's put all the categories in now and get people some work. Really, give them some
Yeah,
people can. There's enough of them. People can live off that and compete professionally. So
yeah, that's it.
that'd be nice.
It would
It
be
would.
nice. And I think it stops people cutting dangerously, you know.
Hmm.
So it
Well,
would be
there's
good.
only there was somebody I forgot the name. There was someone at the last UFC who or one of the other rounds just literally got stopped as they were about to walk out through the curtain, didn't they? Because some I think it was a medical episode, but it's
Yeah,
more and more. And when something horrible is going to happen soon, and it's going to be like, oh, how did that happen? And there's we all
yeah.
know how it happened.
Dehydration.
Yeah, yeah. We don't need that's something. The sport's dangerous enough. You don't need more things like that.
Yeah,
But So your MMA is still going on. We've got a bit of a win streak going. Are you still competing in jiu-jitsu at the same time as well, or any
Yeah,
other things as well? So
yeah,
how are you finding that balance? And are you remembering where you are? You're not actually chucking in an elbow during
yeah,
an
no.
IBJJF tournament, taking someone down. What was that sort of tournament like? Because training for one and then coming and doing another one, it can be a bit of a
Yeah, no, I actually I used the jiu-jitsu competitions as training as well. So I wasn't really worried if I was winning or losing. I was just using it for more training.
get around
So
it sort of thing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I was winning a few, losing a few, winning a few, and it was good. It's a bit of a confidence booster. And then the ones I was losing, I was using to pick out what I needed to work on. So yeah.
That's good. And with MMA now, where are you standing with at the moment? Is it something? Are there still fights you're looking for, or is it sort of?
Mm, it at the minute it's taken a bit of a back seat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've kind of like retired, not officially retired, but kind of retired. But I mean, if something good comes along, I wouldn't say no. Like a good opportunity
Yeah.
with some good pay, I wouldn't say no. But it's really hard to put in the time to do a camp for MMA because you need a good like 10 weeks at least to put in a good shift of a camp. And with work and training and coaching as well now, it's really hard to get the time and the energy. And I'm a little bit older. My knees aren't the same as they used to be. So it's
Oh,
difficult to, yeah.
yeah. Right. So, what is then? What? So you still competing in sort of the grappling and BJJ side of it then,
Yeah,
or is it
jujitsu.
taking the? Yeah.
No, jujitsu is my main focus now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so any opportunity I get to compete on big stages or I try not to do the little competitions so much now, just because there's so many of them, and every time I sign up, there's maybe one or two girls, especially at a high level. There's hardly any brown belts that sign up, and if there is, they're either at a higher weight category or they're too small, or So I either get like it gets cancelled for me, or I get put in the higher weight bracket. So yeah, so I try not to sign up to the little ones and just save my money for the big ones now because they are expensive.
Yeah, no, that's another thing. Now you get to the point where you're gonna need a mortgage to compete.
Yeah.
So, I've seen some of the things in that. But what are your aims in with the sort of tournament? Have you got your eye on certain tournaments? You think, right, so this year I'm going to go for that one and that one and that. What sort of aims have you got? Because
Yeah, so
there was a couple in, I think, was it going to America? Did I?
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going. Yeah, I've been going to San Diego now for the last couple of years. Um, I love it out there. And I train at 10th Planet Oceanside when I'm out there with Gio Martinez. Um, and the team there are awesome, and they're all my friends now. So it feels like it's my second home. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna go back there in August, the 6th. And I've signed up to ADCC in Vegas at the beginning of August, which will be cool. I like to test myself against some really high level grapplers there. And then at the end of August, I've got World's Masters in Vegas as well. So that should be good. That's the IBJJF World Masters. And then I think I've got a combat jiu-jitsu match on a show called Subversive. That's in California, so that should be good. And then I'm just gonna look for whatever competitions are out there at the time while
Yeah,
I'm
well,
there.
yeah, no, it makes sense. That sounds really
Yeah,
good. And again, it's that traveling thing, getting that experience, different people, different places. That's one of the biggest things I think. Like you say, getting the experience going is just
yeah,
that travel and just roll with different people. Because I think so many people, I don't mean this in a bad way, but sometimes they've trained for ages and they're really good, but they've not fought outside their own gym sometimes. And it's that. And I
yeah,
know not competing is not for everyone, but I think it's a good way to at least you know, sharpen yourself a little bit, even if you're a bit nervous about it all and you're not really, you're just doing it once a week for a hobby. I think it's a good thing to push yourself with.
yeah, definitely. And I think in the UK, because there's so little Well, there's quite a few, but there's so little that compete at high level. So you end up going against the same people at the same competitions. So, I mean, we all know each other. We're all friends. We all have a laugh. But it's nice to go to different places and see the levels of the rest of the world, and test yourself against that,
Mm.
which is good.
No, definitely. What do you think of then, as someone who's kind of, as you say, come into it through sort of a striking side, I guess, really initially, and then into the BJJ and competed in everything along the way with that. Seeing this rise now in all these grappling tournaments and events, and even specific female grappling events now, and that, as a female competitor, how does what's your sort of view on that? How's it been for yourself?
I think it's amazing. I think the more women that get involved, the better. It's for me personally, it's really good for my mind. Because when you're training on the mat, you don't really think about anything else other than what you're trying to drill or trying to escape some hard choke that's it's been put on. So you haven't really got any time to think about the troubles of your day-to-day life, which is good. It kind of frees your mind up to just, like, even though you're not chilling, you're training, but your mind's chilling from the worries and the
Yeah.
stresses. So yeah, that side of things is great, and I think the more women get involved, especially to feel more confident, just to walk down the street if there's a big group of men or a group of teenage boys, it sometimes can be daunting. But if you if you know a few like things that you can defend yourself with, I think then you feel better about just being out alone. And I think no woman should feel like that when they're out just trying to do their day-to-day life. So
And what have you got to say? To say there's some, I don't know, they probably wouldn't be listening to this if they're not into it at the moment. But if there's females listening to this and they're thinking about, oh, maybe I should do jiu-jitsu, or maybe I should do a martial art or something like that. But stinky gyms and sweaty men might be an off-putting thing. What sort of advice would you give to them? Because I think there is a certain image still. It probably is right in some occasions of that sort of gym image of it all.
yeah.
Um, but that might put them off. Now, what advice would you give to them?
I would say if you've got a friend that like you could take with you, so you can like drill together, especially if you're brand new. Like having a friend go with you is really like it gives you a little boost, and then you're not alone, and you don't have to roll with random people if you don't want to. And also you can say no to rolling with people. I think people, especially women, they get too scared. Like if they've turned up and they're quite new, and I feel like they have to roll with people that say, "Do you want to roll?" And they're like, "Oh, okay." You can say no. So yeah. So don't be scared. Don't be scared to just say no if you don't want to do something or roll with a
What
certain
about
person.
And what about for those females who are, at their gym and they're going once or twice a week, but when it comes to competitions and that, that's for the other people. We don't need to do that because, as a like I out organise, we do like the Neon Open and the Solent Open, and I'm one of the competition guys for that. And sometimes, like you saying earlier about, like you get all these people signing up, but it's one to a division, and then you have to refund everyone.
Yeah,
And the last one, we had like 30 fighters, but they're all in different bouts and different things. And it's just really frustrating because there's obviously people there that want to compete, but maybe they're too scared to, or taking that step. What
yeah,
advice would you give to women grapplers, and any grapplers who haven't competed yet,
yeah.
actually? What?
So I say to all the students I coach, I say to them, if they don't have to compete, like no one has to compete, obviously. If you're just doing it for a hobby or just to keep fit or just just for the mental, um, I say like just carry on doing what you're doing. But if you really want to test yourself and the level of the jiu-jitsu that you're learning, or you want to see like your progression, competing is the only way you can really do that, like to test yourself, because you're you train at a gym, right, against the same people like twice a week or whatever. So
Yeah.
you get to know their game, they know your game. So you're progressing, yeah, but you're not really testing what new things you can do, you know? because you end up doing the same things because they do the same things because they know what you're going to do and you know what they're going to do. So I think the only way to really test your progression and your level is to compete. And I would use competing as a tool to either like parts of your game that get exposed to what you got to work on, or parts of the game that you're doing really well that you can just tighten up a little bit just to keep going on that. So yeah, I would say just use the competition as a training tool, and don't worry about the results because the results don't matter at the end of the day. No one cares after a couple of days. Everyone forgets about it, but like you don't forget about it. And that's the thing that people worry about the most is, oh, I'm gonna lose. People gonna think I suck, and you know, I think that doesn't get spoken about enough. Like, yes, people lose, but people at the highest level lose as well, and they still go and compete.
Yeah.
Like, and people still think they're really cool. So no one's gonna care if you lost like a little open down the road that cost you 100 quid to enter. Like, only you're gonna care about that because you care so much. But if you use it as a training tool, then the results don't really matter.
No, that's cool. Do you think like the sort of, and you touched on that a little bit there, that's what just made me think about. Do you think the sort of the mental game of it might be the next evolution into jiu-jitsu and martial arts? Because um, the sort of there's the self-confidence battles anyway
Yeah.
and things, and they're like I know people that have got like, they've got their black belt somebody, but then they've got that imposter syndrome, and all that. And it's like, you've been doing it 15 years, yeah, you've earned it or whatever.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that, and even competing sometimes where you just see an opponent and you lose straight away. I think that might be the next evolution. How's that been with yourself? And also, obviously, as you're a coach now, I was going to get to that bit in a minute, where we kind of that, but you're coaching now as well. That seems to be quite a battle. I mean, I myself sometimes I've done myself in before I've started because I've gone, oh, look at that, he's younger than me. Because again, I always get merged, and when you've got the 21-year-old with a neck and a six pack down to his knees, I know what's coming, but I might actually give myself a chance, but I've already done myself out of it, because
Yeah.
it is what it is. It's the
I,
mental. I mean,
I think the mindset is the biggest downfall of um like going into a competition because I mean we've all been there when we compete, like, oh, I'm not going to win, I'm going to do bad, everyone's going to think I'm rubbish. And I think where it changed for me was when I did lose, I used to get so upset, and then I realized after a few days, like, no one actually cares. Like, no one talks about it anymore. Like, you post a picture on Instagram and everyone congratulates you anyway, even if you lose. So I was like, well, people don't actually care if I lose. So why am I worried? So I think as long as I do my jujitsu and as long as I put on a good show and, just try and showcase what I can do, that's all that matters to me. If I go out and compete and I put on a really terrible performance, then I'm like, okay, that was really bad. I need to work on this. But if I put on a really good performance and still lose, I'm like, well, they were just better on the day. My opponent's been working on different things, or they're just better at this moment in time. So it's just one of those things. I think the more you compete, the more you realize that the results don't really matter.
no, I think that's true. But I think, yeah, I think it's just that. I think once you've done it, I think it's like jumping in the pool. I think once you've done it, you get it, and then but until you do, it's like a little bit.
Yeah.
But as a coach, then, because what led, so you've got out of Odyssey Combat Hub now, where you're a coach.
Yeah.
When did the coaching bit start to come in? Was this something as you were going along where you helping people, or is it something that
Yeah.
you had a goal to be a coach, or did it just become something you did?
Yeah, I kind of didn't think that I would end up being a coach. Um, I didn't really think about it, to be honest. I just turned up to class and
Yeah.
did my thing and went back home and rested and then did it all over again and just loved it so much. But I think it was when I was an early purple belt, I started to just help out when people were off sick or if people were on holiday, and I would just jump in to help out. We started a women's class as well, so I started to do that with one of the other women that did jiu-jitsu at the time. So it just really started from that, just helping the gym out and starting a women's class. So yeah, and now I coach 2 times a week and still jump in to help when other people are off.
And how do you find coaching? Like you, well, thinking about like what we said at the beginning of the podcast, when it's your first time stepping on the mat. Now you're the person as people are coming on for the first time. You know, how's that coaching journey sort of developed? How have you found it? You know,
Yeah, so when I first started coaching, I was like, "Oh my god, what? I don't know anything. Why am I? I'm here teaching people, and I don't know anything." But the more I taught people, the more I thought, actually, I do know a lot of things. Like I'm all right at this. This is cool. I've been, I've been doing it for a long time now, and I've got a few things up my sleeve and a few things in my brain. So yeah, but the more I've coached now, it's progressed my game so much because I'm not only like teaching people the drill that we're doing or the specific move. I've got to show them, I've got to drill it myself, I've got to help, so I get to really like break it down into intricate parts, the moves that we're learning, at that time, and I get a really deeper look into each individual movement of that. So I think coaching has helped my game to progress as well, which is a big thing for me. And it's actually given me more confidence to just speak to people. I strike up conversations to random people. It's just all overall, it's really helped me a lot to be able to coach. So
that's good to hear. So what then lies in the future for you now? You know, the MMA thing, like you said, you've got that on hold now. If the
yeah.
right thing comes along, maybe your jiu-jitsu now. There's a few things coming up in America. We've got the coaching going on now. Are there any other goals or anything else that you want to try get into or achieve? You know, what else have you got on your bucket list?
I just really just want to be the best that I can be. I just want to do really well with jiu-jitsu. I kind of just want to inspire people. I don't There's not a lot of money in jiu-jitsu. Um so I'm not looking into being a millionaire, but as long as I can inspire a few people to want to join or want to learn or want to be a coach, that's all I'm aiming for now, is to just inspire the new generation coming up.
That's really cool. And so, if anyone's listening to this then and they're feeling inspired or they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Probably through Instagram. KIO3 Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah. So if you need any advice or want to talk about anything, my messenger is always open. So, but no
Excellent.
weird,
I'll
no,
link that in the show notes as well.
I don't want any weird guys messaging me though, because there's too many of those.
Yeah, well, you can block them. You can block them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put the link in. I'll put the link in the show notes. Hopefully, we haven't got too many weird guys that listen to this. But
Fingers crossed, because I will post it on my story.
once.
If I get any weird, like sometimes if I get weird messages, I just post them on my story with the username and everything.
That's the
Yeah.
best way to do it, I think. People will see back off then.
Yeah. So if I get any
Well,
messages, watch out. You're going straight on my story.
all I ever get are people that can print rash guards for me at a really good price from somewhere abroad.
I get those too.
But no, that is brilliant. So thank you so much for taking the time today. I mean, is there anything else you'd just like to add or say it to sum it up? Really, I think it's been really good, and just hearing your story has been really interesting, and the changes and where it's taken you, and good luck in America, obviously, with all those as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, is there anything else you just want to sort of say at the end, just to add on, really?
Oh, I'm not too sure. Oh, I don't know. Do jiu-jitsu, everyone.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, again, thank you for taking the time. I know you pretty much came straight from the gym to do this as well, so
Yeah.
it is really appreciated.
No, thank you for
And
having
yeah,
me.
thank you. No problem at all. A big thank you there to Kerry Isom for taking time out of her training that to talk to us today. I've been your host, Brett Summers, and this is the Grapple of Your Eye show. Next week, we'll be back with another guest. But in the meantime, you can check us out on the grappleofyoureyeshow.com, as well as listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other different podcast apps that are out there. If you like to watch the show, you can check us out on YouTube. We do ask if you could rate, review us, or subscribe and enable the notifications. All those things really do make a big deal to us and really do help us get out there further. So thank you for listening again this week. As I say, we'll be back next week with another episode. In the meantime, stay safe and stay on the mats.
I tend to tell people, from an amateur wrestler to a professional wrestler to a cage fighter to being the alpha male of senior citizens now.
I would definitely recommend BJJ. I say quite frequently, I think it's really helped Clay. It's given him some structure, it's given him discipline, and also, but probably the most important thing, it's given him a routine. I mean, with the training, he knows where we're going to be, what day. He goes into the same gym or the same gyms now, because he trains at different gyms. And yeah, it's helped him. It's built relationships with his peers. He's got great friends. He's got some great role models in the gyms that he trains at, with not only the coaches but all the adults that are there. And it's just a great environment. It took me by surprise. It wasn't what I expected when we first walked into a gym.
And it's interesting in that there are a number of tournaments that are promised and organized with the Future Federation. And in one of them, there's a clause there will be tournaments with strikes involved, but they will be held under different regulation. And I saw that, and I completely missed that the first time I read that document, right? And I'm going, holy cow. I think that our forefathers, our founding fathers, they had the wisdom to see that a competition rule was going to drift away from the reality of combat, and that a rule set with strike was necessary in order to maintain that foot in reality.
When I qualified for the Olympic Games and being the first female in wrestling for New Zealand, yeah, I think that really took the cake. I think that was the best feeling ever, and I think about it often still, and it still makes me feel really good.